Hello, my name is Sutton King, and today's presentation will be providing an overview of Accra, Ghana's toxic electric waste dump, Egbogbloshie. Today's presentation is going to provide an overview of Accra, Ghana, Egbogbloshie, the associated problems, health risks, 3 different multi-professional interventions, 1 comprehensive multi-level intervention, lessons learned, and the references. Ghana lies on the Atlantic Ocean and is bordered by 3 countries, Togo, Côte d'Ivoire, and Burkina Faso. Ghana's total area is 238,533 square kilometers and is home to 29.6 million people who speak many languages. A few of the main languages include English and African, such as Akan and Iwe. Ghana consistently ranks in the top 3 countries in Africa for freedom of speech and press freedom, with strong broadcast media, with radio being the medium with the greatest reach. Egbogbloshie is home to a 20-acre scrapyard near the center of Ghana's capital. It is known as the largest destination for electronic waste. The dumping of electronic waste, such as electronic scrap and generated automobiles, from all over the world has created a highly toxic and polluted crisis. Each year, globally, 50 million tons of e-waste is being thrown away, and only 20% of that is recycled appropriately. Ghana imports about 150,000 tons of second-hand electronics a year, although this is estimated to be underreported. An estimated 10,000 workers sift through the electronic waste, creating an informal recycling process. The purpose of the workers are to separate the metals from the invaluable materials such as copper wire from insulation. In Ghana and across the world, insulated wire is highly sought after by recyclers, big and small, who then covet the metal. Local metal dealers and Nigerian traders pay the workers for the metals, and on average, the workers can make between a few bucks to $10 a day. The quickest and most economical way to achieve this task is by burning the e-waste and gathering the metals after. The burning of this waste is toxic and extremely dangerous to human health. There is a misconception also that has fueled the narrative that the crisis is a consequence of rich developed countries that dump their electronic waste in the e-site. According to the United Nations Environment Program, 85% of the e-waste dumped in Ghana and other parts of West Africa is produced in Ghana and West Africa, which means the solution to resolving this crisis must come from within. Now I'm going to discuss some of the associated issues. Number 1, pollution. Workers in Egbogbloshie dismantle the e-waste manually, from computer towers to cars. On the edge of the waste site, workers burn waste in car tires. The smoldering fires carry toxic gas such as dangerous levels of carbon monoxide, dioxin, and other heavy metals that are extremely dangerous to human health. These toxins are then emitted into the air, ground, and water. A recent report by the environmental group IPEN and Basal Action Network found Egbogbloshie contains some of the most hazardous chemicals on Earth. Next, food contamination. Near the e-waste site lies a vegetable garden to the north, as you'll see on the map, and a food market to the east. As e-waste is consistently set on fire to reveal precious metals to the workers, the toxic fumes and soil and water contaminates the food sources for the citizens. The Guardian in April 2019 reported that a study for IPEN and the Basal Action Network found dangerous levels of dioxins and polychlorinated biphenyls in chicken eggs and Egbogbloshie. Next, water contamination. Egbogbloshie is situated on the coral lagoon, which is contaminated with bacteria, has significantly low levels of dissolved oxygen, and is not suitable for human contact. This is a consequence of the enormous quantities of waste seeping into the water. And last, poor living conditions. The informal settlement, known as Old Fadama, has increased over years and is growing closer to the east site, which is exposing those within the settlement to the dangerous levels of pollutants and toxins. Additionally, disease runs rampant due to the poor hygiene practices, as migrants living among the waste eat and openly defecate and work on the land. Due to the poor living condition, Egbogbloshie and the surrounding area has been nicknamed Sodom and Gomorrah, known as condemned cities from the Bible. Electronic waste is a growing global challenge that poses a serious threat to the environment and human health worldwide. Workers and populations surrounding the site are exposed to highly toxic chemicals and carcinogens, inhaling toxins such as cadmium, dioxins, furans, phthalates, and brominated flame retardants. The development of the nervous, respiratory, and reproductive systems are compromised, leading to chronic disease. Workers are commonly subjected to respiratory illnesses due to the significantly toxic pollutant in the air. Additionally, workers and people living near the site report suffering from chronic nausea and debilitating migraines. I interviewed Marnie King, an insurance broker for large businesses. After she reviewed the crisis in Agbobashi, she was quoted with this following intervention. My intervention would be to start a true business system, with payroll systems and a safe working condition. With proper safety procedures and guidelines, there are so many issues here. Children working in unsafe conditions, raising animals where food will come from, also growing food in the working environment should not be allowed. They are in contaminated work areas and food will become contaminated. Why are other countries sending all of this stuff there knowing this? Marnie King's expertise is in employee benefits. This can be seen in the approach she took through wanting to implement a business system that creates structure and decreases the dangers in the workplace. Highlighting the contributions the site makes to recycling countries' unwanted waste and the necessity in worker productivity in keeping the site successful may play on both the government's interests as well as the site manager's interests to push proper safety procedures and guidelines. Chase Brown, an influencer, reviewed the current crisis in Agbobashi, and his intervention quotes, I would suggest a policy intervention to mitigate the situation. We need to end any exports from the United States and denounce the practice of sending e-waste to West Africa. We need to be clear on our stance that the U.S. doesn't support toxic e-waste dumps. We should also ask other countries to sign on a declaration denouncing this practice. Chase's intervention takes a communication approach, which speaks to his role as a social media influencer. As someone who has a platform to influence behavior, his intervention focuses on the United States utilizing their platform to influence other countries to end exporting e-waste to toxic sites such as Agbobashi. Since the U.S. is an influential country that the world pays much attention to, this could be a way to increase the visibility of the issue and use publicity to scold other countries for contributing to this health crisis. Michael Nicholson, a chef, reviewed the crisis in Agbobashi, and his intervention suggested the following. While the only intervention I could think of would be more resources for profit, and using a part of that profit to build something for the waste to eliminate or at least decrease toxins from materials in the metal, this might be too expensive and impossible to implement. Micah's intervention focuses on using resources for profit, which is central to the role of a chef. Chefs utilize different ingredients, or resources, to prepare meals to sell, creating a profit. Since profit of these resources are inevitable, the intervention suggests that a portion of the profits should be used to decrease the toxicity levels found in the e-site. Taking into account all three suggested interventions from the professionals, a comprehensive multi-level intervention was developed to alleviate the crisis in Agbobashi. There are three phases in this intervention, starting from the top down. First, an international policy that develops legislation to end the imports of e-waste to Accra, Ghana from high-income countries. At the government level, we propose two interventions that would reduce work-related morbidity or mortality and decrease health disparity. First, we propose regulating the working condition of e-waste sites through the development of procedures and policies to protect workers that will ultimately create safer conditions. Through this intervention, workers would be given fair wages, a safe environment, and access to healthcare professionals. Next, because owners are profiting from the highly dangerous work of the community, owners of the e-waste sites will be mandated to invest 10% of profits made yearly back into the site to create safer work environments. Challenges. One of the challenges that the multi-level intervention proposes is, 1, that creating legislation that ends the imports of e-waste into Ghana only has the potential of decreasing e-waste by 15%. As 85% of countries' e-waste comes internally from Ghana and other West African countries. This means that the policy truly needs to be focused on Africa and not outside communities or countries. Next, initiatives such as the NGO Pure Earth efforts to install copper wire centers to simplify removing wire coating have not ended the burning of e-waste, which challenges the acceptability of workers adapting to safe methods if policy were to regulate that. Next, on the 15th of February 2018, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, known as MESTI, and the Environment Protection Agency, known as the EPA, launched the Technical Guidelines on Environmental Sound E-Waste Management at the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Accra. The development of guidelines were created to make these e-sites much more safer for workers and for the community. This included a 2-year process of stakeholder participation by policymakers, industry, as well as informal sector representatives, the civil society organization, and scientists. However, the challenge here is that with data collection efforts being sparse, it's not realistic to say that these efforts have mitigated the crisis. This is a great first step. However, for accountability to take place, data must be collected. Additionally, mandating owners of e-waste sites to invest 10% of their yearly profits back into the e-waste site to create a more safer work environment will require accountability, and with corruption prevalent in this industry, this may not be a feasible intervention. Working with a multidisciplinary team whose professions are outside of the public health field provided a unique approach and refreshing lens to mitigating a public health crisis. Approaches that may not be normally thought of from a public health professional were brought to the table, which provides a space of possible innovation. However, a challenge working with a team of professionals who are outside of the public health realm was the feasibility of the interventions were not always realistic. This was a positive exercise and is important when looking for new and innovative approaches and interventions to solve some of the world's leading crises.